Good morning, traders. So let's have a look at the Aussie. So yesterday was quite an interesting day. We thought it was going to turn, and it didn't turn, and it continued down for a bit. So I just want to get these downward trend lines. So this channel here, remember what I said? We had the channel break, but this can also still be seen as a retest, even though it has come back into the channel. It can still be seen as a retest of the channel. It's only once it breaks this level that it actually isn't. But that's the one thing. But I think the other thing that is pretty important to bear in mind is that we are forming a triangle again. Okay, and we are in the middle of the Bollinger Band on the weekly, so this is pretty much a weekly triangle that's forming. Let's just get cracking down with the lower time frames and see what's happening. Okay, so we've had a pretty solid rejection bar. So we had a gap up, and to be honest with you, I was expecting with that gap up it would come back, close the gap, and then move to the upside. But that was pretty much wrong. And what we did do, though, is we did tag the 60 bar. We didn't tag it, but we came close. So we're a couple of pips short of the 61.8 retracement. So that's a pretty good level for retracement. So this is an area for longs. And I think the trick is just to find what the area is. If you manage to get in at the bottom here, I'd still hold it, but I got out of mine because I wasn't seeing the love at just before 5 o'clock. So let's just get down to the 4 hour. Okay, so I just want to get some levels in for us here. So the first one is pretty much there, and it'll be there. Okay, so it's that area there, and then we have a level there. I think that's pretty much the levels to the top. Levels to the downside would be an ideal entry. So at this Brooks gap, that would be a really very good entry. Let me get down to the 1 hour. Okay, and the other thing that we need to just be aware of is, so we had this downward trend line here, and I'm just going to use this line. Okay, so we pretty much had a falling wedge here, and I think maybe just delete that. Let's get it better again. Okay, so we had a falling wedge, and we had a breakout to the opposite side of the wedge, which is often a signal that the wedge is going to break. So if these breakouts continue, then pretty much you have a wedge breakout in the opposite direction, and the target is the same. So it's the height of the wedge. But they are rare. They don't often happen. I've probably only seen it happen maybe 4 or 5 times in about 5 years. So it's very rare that it happens like that. So more often than not, these are overthrows. In other words, it tries to break through, then the buyers step in and they push it back through, and it forces the wedge break, which is what happened. So yesterday, I was in at the bottom here, but got out at this level here because I was expecting another push down, and it doesn't look like we've got that push. So the next step for me is to wait for a pullback. So this area here would be a good area for a pullback, but I think what you're going to need to do is watch price action. So that would be an ideal area for a pullback. 350, which is roughly 200 points from where we are now. So it is feasible that we get there, and that would be the area that I'd be watching for to get in long on this market. So 2 things before we close off. The first one is, if we do close with a green bar today, that's going to be confirmation of this pin bar. Now, this daily pin bar, I'd prefer it to be green like this. It just gives me better confidence, but it is a red pin bar. But the reality is the bears were in control, okay, and they pushed it down, and then the bulls got control of the bar, and they won the day at the end of the day. Now, from a Bill Williams perspective, we have, just going to delete this noise. Okay, so from the Bill Williams perspective, we do have a wise man number one. This bar here is a wise man number one, and I'll show you now. So from where price crosses through the alligator there, and then I draw another line from where price crossed the alligator, so from there along the red line. So you can see the angle or the divergence between the red line and price. So price is very far and it's been moving away from the red line, which is an indication of a wise man number one setup. Okay, now the interesting thing is if you combine this with the price action that we have at the moment, we have a 61.8 Fibonacci pullback at this stage. So a break above here is long and a stop loss is supposed to be down here. Now, the reality is, who in their right mind is going to have a 800-point stop loss? Okay, so take it with a pinch of salt. It's just really, this is a wise man number one. This pin bar here was a wise man number one. Okay, so it was an entry on the break of this bar. So the same setup applies here. So break of this bar is where you want to be in. Okay, so in other words, the break of the previous day high is an indication of, and we need to do that on the 15 minutes. So ignore your 24-hour information. So what we're looking for is a break above this high there. So we get a break above there, then you can keep your stop pretty close. So you can probably use a normal 250 point stop loss from the open. So as soon as it's settled down and you can see we're moving up, then you're in. If we're not moving up, wait for it to settle. If it does pull back to this level, great, then it's another opportunity to get in. Okay, so and then if today closes green, then obviously that entry that you have becomes a swing trade. Just move your stop to entry and wait for I'd wait for Friday to play out before closing out. Okay, so that's kind of my setup for today. I hope it helps, and if you haven't subscribe and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't like it, or leave us a comment, and I'll do my best to get back to you today still. Anyway, enjoy the day. Catch you guys later. Cheers.